Many, many things. First of all, the Rippaverse. A sick place full of sick people led by a sick man, Eric July. A real freak. A real weirdo. A real strange guy. A guy who's decided to make the lives of my friends difficult simply because one of them said his comic book was not very good. What a strange, strange world that I have found myself living in. Luckily, my life was already pretty fucking strange, so I'm prepared to handle this kind of thing. I expect this from weirdos on the internet, especially from weird millionaires on the internet, people who have a little bit of power and they like to throw it around because they think it belongs to them. Well, the power comes from everywhere and it belongs to the people. It ain't yours. And I'm going to take it back. So, what's going on today? I made this 4.5-hour live stream the other day. Very successful. Unbelievable watch duration on that thing. 28-minute average watch time. That's crazy for YouTube. So I know a lot of y'all have seen it. Where I talked about Eric July and Null. You know, butt buddies over here. Eric July and Null. Lovers across a distant space-time, Eric July and Null, two retards on the internet that both want smoke with me. Big mistake. I filled that video with so many landmines and bombshells. I didn't know what they were going to target. I was like, what would... If I was Null or if I was Eric July and I was going to try to react to this, what would I react to? And I figured, 4 hours of me being drunk, stumbling through opinions, at some point, one of my pauses, one of my asides, I must have said something that would set them off, right? I thought I would have made more of a mistake, though. I thought I was going to make a mistake somewhere and that they would fixate on that, but I really didn't, apparently. At the very least, that's not what they found. Rippaverse goalposts. If you've never heard of Rippaverse goalposts, this is like basically the ultimate Rippaverse nut hugger account. It is widely speculated to either be Eric July himself or his wife or somebody else that is closely related in their camp. But basically, this exists to clip every time Eric does something good or clip every time somebody else talks shit about him, including me. Detractor finally admits why they feel compelled to cry about Eric July. It has nothing to do with comic books. Now, I thought this is an interesting take because they're trying to paint me as evidence that people who don't like Eric July, the reasons have nothing to do with his comic sucking. His comic is really bad. I've read the comic. It's unfucking believably bad. But no, that has nothing to do with why I hate Eric July. I'm not a fucking Comicsgate person. I'm not somebody who's got currently a comic book for sale. Now, I've written a comic book that's better than Eric's, and when it comes out, I will then be able to talk about how much better my comic is than his. But unlike Vito, I don't talk about how good my comic is when I don't have a comic out. As far as you know, my comic is dog shit. There's no Vito's entire argument against Eric July in the first place was, you have no reason to think this guy's comic will be any good. He's not an established writer. He's never done anything before. And sure enough, when the comic came out, it sucked. That's all this was at the beginning. Vito said, you probably shouldn't think this comic's going to be good just because it made all this money and this guy you liked wrote it. And he was right. The comic was bad. The only reason that I have said that Vito's comic is going to be good is because I've read it. I had no reason to think it would be good until I read it. I don't think you should think it would be good. I don't think you should buy Superkiller. I think it's a fucking mistake that it's taken him so fucking long to release it. Once it's out, and then you can actually prove that it's good, then you fucking pay for the thing. I don't understand the culture of pre-orders. I would never pre-order a fucking video game. I would never pre-order a fucking anything because I'm not a chump consumer. I'm not a fucking... whatever. You get it. Before I say things that hurt everybody's business, let me just tell you, This is why I don't have any money. I'm not trying to scam my customers. I don't think anything is worth anything. I don't want to give you some fucking piece of paper in a digital media age. I don't like collectibles. I regret most of the things I've purchased. I guarantee you I've bought more comics than this motherfucker has. You know, most of them Japanese. I am much more of a manga fan, obviously, than a comic book fan, but I own like 100 American comics and I own like 1,000 manga, you know, notwithstanding the hundreds I've sold. So this is all me coming from a place of like, yeah, I bought all those comics. I regret it. I think it was a waste of money. I can't imagine spending the amount that people spend on Rippa's comics that aren't even good. They're not worth anything. They have depreciated in value astronomically in the time since their release already. So, yeah, no, my problem with Rippa goes way beyond him making shitty comics. Most comics are shitty. Most of the people trying to peddle comics on the internet are not any good. The only reason EVS gets away with it is he's actually a great artist who already proved himself in the mainstream industry before he went rogue, before he started doing other shit. The only other Comicsgate people who have mattered are people like John Malin, who just made such... I've read Black Riding Hood. It's really good, you know? That made me think, okay, this guy deserves to make money off of comics. I don't know anything else about that dude. I've just read his comic and thought it was good. I have never seen him live stream. I saw him from a distance in person, never talked to him, you know, at C2E2. So, as far as I'm concerned, like, on a comic book level, if I was just judging you by your comic, Eric, you would be beyond worthless. Worse than the worst things that Marvel is putting out. Worse than the gayest, dumbest, shittiest book that EVS has scribbled on in his review streams. Like, yours is the worst. It is the worst comic. But that is not why I have a problem with Eric July. And I made this clear even as far back as my rap song. Eric July is just a black guy who can't even speak and mostly just lies, you know? Like Isom, I know there's no way he writes. Carol Brown probably is the one who actually sat down and typed all the words out. So, I was wondering how long it would take before they would, you know, respond to me, and I would have to assume that this happened because I showed up in the chat of Eric's live stream. A day or two after my video, you know, he did a big, let's talk about all the stuff we're excited about that's going on in the Rippaverse, and, you know, there was a point where me and Courage the Cowardly Dog were the only two trolls that I could tell in chat, literally being like, fuck you, you know, and he chose, out of everyone who was in chat to respond to someone, he chose to respond to Courage the Cowardly Dog the one time that he threw him a softball question. So that let me know that Eric is hyper attentive to the trolls in his chat. He definitely saw me there. I was probably part of the reason that he started to look shaken, you know. There's a point, I actually took a clip from that. I didn't bother posting it because Katie did, and then clipped the whole fucking stream pretty much. But there's a point where he looked like he's about to cry trying to talk about Bloodroot's release date and, like, realizing how much work he has ahead of him to make the, like, 7 comics he's promising come out on time. And it's like, bro, none of them are good. Just stop. We don't need these shitty comics. Nobody needs a Bloodroot comic. The Bloodroot part of Isom 2 is fuck awful. Her powers suck. Every power she has, she's like, and here's why it's bad, you know? Ugh. I'm the only one who's actually read these comics other than, like, Dick and Riley. Like, we're the only 3 people. Everyone who has read Isom, Eric July wants to go to jail. He only wants you to buy it. He does not want you to read it. But no, my problem with him goes way deeper, and I don't have to be coy about this because I'm not trying to grift off of right-wingers. I'm a faggot. I don't care if you think that, like, like, I'm not part of team... I am not EVS. I am not a fucking Christian conservative. I'm part of the other, not the other team, because I'm not a Democrat either, whatever the fuck you think. I'm a free agent. I hate 90% of people. I'm a 5%er, actually. I'm a black Israelite. If anything, if there's any group I would throw in with, it would be the black Israelites. I want to hang out with Lupe Fiasco, alright? I'm not trying to hang out with Eric July. What the fuck am I trying to look up here? I like very militantly opened up YouTube like I was about to play a video. Then I distracted myself.
Cleared up. At no point have I had any discussion with this man. He does not appear to be a well-adjusted individual. He displays mental instability.
What?
So at this part, I say like, well, what is well-adjusted? What do you consider well-adjusted, Eric? Because I don't consider you well-adjusted. That's the point of this bit that I go on here. And at one point I say, look at his face. Is that a well-adjusted face? But it's been edited so that his face is not visible at the part where I'm saying that. So already a manipulative edit.
Look at the face he's making right now. Is this a well-adjusted man? You are the for likes and money because they know that there are dumb people who really.
Yeah, so they're trying to paint this as like me being racist or something. I think, I mean, Rippa didn't say that, but a lot of the comments have interpreted this as racism. But my point is that Eric is racist. Eric is the black guy willing to sell out the rest of his race. He is literally a race traitor. That's been my whole point. I don't like white people. I am not team white. If anything, again, black Israelites. That's who I'd throw in my lot with. If it came down to a race war, I've been trying to tan as quickly as possible. I'm trying to get out of this whole white thing. I don't want to be white. White is not the future. All right. Man, what a monetize your haters episode this would have been. And Rippa says exactly, it would be highly entertaining. Bro, I want on. I would love to be on Monetize the Haters. I did this concept before you did, Eric. Back when I was Digibro, I did Digibro versus everybody to the tune of 1,000 live viewers. I'm ready to do that. Let's go. I would love to be on Monetize the Haters. Bring it back just for me. Please. I'm begging you. I'm literally begging you, Eric. Please bring back Monetize the Haters just to have me on. You would make my millennium if you did that. Oh my god, I would love to argue with you. Look, I already took an L to Destiny. You know I can lose. So, bring me on. Let's see it. Alright, what else do we got here? The only black right-wing guy? What about, and then he lists, here's a list of black people that you shouldn't trust. Officer Tatum, Jesse Lee Peterson, Tommy Sotomayor, Black Conservative, Stevie Knight, Jeff Mead, the Hodge Twins, and Thomas Sowell. Although Thomas Sowell is like a writer, not like a YouTube personality, so he doesn't really fit in. Well, I guess he's also on YouTube. Whatever. Don't trust those guys. It's actually shocking these people don't know how racist they are. I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I don't see Eric as a right-winger at all. He literally is, though. He literally works for a right-wing organization. Everyone that he associates with is right-wing. If you can't see that, you are blind. You are just blind. That's absolute insanity. Envy with a little dash of racism. I mean, racism against white people like Eric July, who pretends to be black. He's basically wearing blackface while being black. Like, he puts on a black accent. He acts like he's more ghetto than he is. He throws random slang into his speech, even though he doesn't, use it most of the time. His slang comes from different places. It's not even, a specific type of slang. He's just not... He's pretending to be more black for attention from people who want a black guy to be on their team. It's crazy. It's crazy these people don't see this. I like the little racist black guy voice impression. That was me doing Eric's impression of a black... Because Eric, what it is that, he talks like this, but then every so often he likes to throw in some, but also I will air you out, I know slang, so sometimes I use it. Also, he keeps trying to purport that his slang means different stuff than it does. He's talking about pull up and I'll air you out. But by that, I mean, come sit across from me and we'll have a nice conversation. We'll air what's on our mind. I'm like, your name is Young Rippa. Your literal name is a reference to firing guns. Like, your entire shtick is based on gangsta slang. You cannot act like the shit you're saying means something different because, well, you see, but I'm a business person, so therefore, what it is that when I say those things, they are no longer representative of his him trying not to say an ignorant mind state of the streets, because that's what he would say, but I'm trying not to sound racist by saying what I know Rippa would say, because then he'll clip me and say I'm being racist when I'm just trying to do a him impression. Eric should go out there and handle that, or offer a guy who has been harassing you in your business an olive branch because reasons. What? Who are you quoting? A lot of people just saying, "Oh, it's Digibro." Like, no, it's Trixie. I even changed my whole internet handle about it. Like, they think it does something special to say, like, oh, the dead name. Like, okay. What does that add to your argument? Eric July is not right-wing, not even close. His comics are no different than leftist trash down to the Black Viking. We were mocking him long before the comic, though. He is thin-skinned and weak. Probably poor, too. Who other than poors have to monetize their haters? I don't think he's that poor. I've seen what his house looks like. It's a pretty big house. So, yeah. I'm not Ethan Van Sciver. I do care that everything you say is bullshit. Like, I don't agree with any part of what Rippa does. I'm not here just because his comic is trash. That's like the final nail in the coffin. Well, really, the final nail is that you're a cop-calling coward. Like, that matters way more to me than the comic. If I cared about the comic, I would have been dunking on you a year ago when it came out, and it was shitty. I read Dick's review, and I went, sounds really bad. I'm not reading that. I literally had not read the comic until I had to go pick up my friend from jail who happened to have a bunch of comics that he had been giving out, at an event there shortly before he went to jail. And so I read Isom 1 and 2. They're actually way worse than you would think. Like, they're worse than you could really imagine, because no comic's ever been written this way. Like, I've never read a comic that was so transparently built out of trying to force as many of these, like, specific characters and plot lines into the same comic as possible for the sake of launching all these other spin-off comics. It literally is just a backdoor pilot for, like, 12 other comics across 2 issues. It's fucking dizzying. It's unbelievable, like, how confusing and weird and badly planned it is. The only parts that even start to make sense are parts that feel like Eric just dictated a conversation out loud straight from his head to somebody who then wrote it down, and the rest of it is like just dog shit nonsense. The artwork's really bad. It's literally all 3D assets. It's got just horrible paneling, horrible pacing. I'm going to make a full-length analysis video about all of it. I'm going to break it all down in extensive depth. I am literally the greatest critic the internet has ever seen, and I'm coming for your shitty comic, Eric, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't send me to jail. I don't live in Texas. I'm never going to Texas. Sorry, buddy. Your comic's getting read and reviewed by somebody who actually knows literary criticism. It's gonna happen. There's nothing you can do to stop it. You can't call me a racist about it because I hate white people. You can't call me a leftist about it because I hate the left. I hate the right. I actually just hate most people. I don't think all these team sports guys, they don't get this. People think like, oh, I picked the right or the left, and therefore I'm either on the right 50% or the left 50% of like all humanity. And it's like, no. You are at best like relatable to 10% of people, and the other 90% all want you dead. And because you're not as far into whatever direction as they are or as you think you are, you know, um, I think it is very normal that if that 90% of everybody you meet would be somebody that you're like, wow, I want nothing the fuck to do with you. You suck. 90% of everything sucks. 90% of media sucks. 90% of people suck. And that's from any one person's independent perspective. But that's the only one that matters to you. You're not going to get anything out of the 90% of people that suck. You're not going to be able to, like, you know, milk that for anything. Not without like, fathoms of pyramid below you, you know? But for the most part, you're only going to connect with 10% of people. So I'm very, very capable of hating most of the left, most of the right, most of you people online, most of my own audience, most of anybody I will ever encounter in life. I've got more than enough hate for that. I got hate springing out of my eyeballs. I am the new queen of hate. All right? Hate is my brand now. You're not going to convince me that me being a big hater is a problem. Hate is what I do. It's what I was put on this earth for. I do it better than most people. I'm just good at hate. All right? And I hate Eric July. He probably should have considered his actions better before he incurred the wrath of a hate demon upon him. It's got nothing to do with him being black, other than that he is black, and most black people would not create the problems that I have with Eric July. Most of them would not go work for Glenn Beck. Most of them would not go, you know, talking shit about trans people. Most of them would not go and then weirdly hire a couple of like pro-trans liberals to write their comic and then pretend like they didn't, or like just ignore everything about who those people are. I don't know, man. Eric's whole thing is just confusing. To me, it reads as crime. The whole enterprise just reads as crime to me. Again, when people are this worried about anyone getting close to what they're doing, it's like, well, what could you be doing? That's like, we all know you're writing a shitty comic book. That hasn't affected you really. Like, people are still buying the shitty comic book. So what are you so afraid of that you need to get people arrested and get them off your back? Like, what is so fucked about your business that you're going to all these lengths to make sure that people can't even talk shit about your comic book? The suspiciousness is off the fucking charts. You cannot just be this butthurt that your comic sucks because you knew it sucked. Nobody read this comic and said, oh, we knocked it out of the park, 10 out of 10 guys. Like, oh, this is super worth it. No. This is about following a precise game plan for milking the fattest, baldest, whitest dudes in the world. And look, if the plan is actually secretly like, you know, fuck all these racist white boys, we're gonna take all their money and sell them a shitty comic, that's kind of funny. You know, if that's actually the plan, that's kind of funny. But you should not have caught Dick or Riley or I in the crossfire of that. Because we ain't team white. It ain't like that. Dick claims Mexican. Riley claims Japanese. I claim sunburnt. You know? I ain't white, I'm sunburnt. Alright, that's probably enough about Rippa verse goalposts, yeah? Got some Jesse Lee Peterson fans in my comments. Got some You'll Never Be a Woman's. Block that. Random question. Who's that black guy with black and white hair that talks about music theory that you talked about a long time ago? Do you know who I'm talking about? Oh, Zan Huxtable. My good friend, Zan Huxtable. Okay. Le Heckin' Blazerino, indeed. Fuck all those guys. Fuck everybody who works for Glenn Beck. Fuck Glenn Beck. Fuck Muse, even though they don't like Glenn Beck either. But fuck them. I hate listening to Muse. I can't think about Glenn Beck without thinking about Muse anymore, or vice versa. And I don't really care for either one. Where the hell did I put my power brick? I gotta plug my phone in. I guess I could just plug it into the computer, but I need a power cord. I'll be right back. Anyway. Why am I up to 30 viewers now that I am not on screen? Oh, maybe I misread that. It says 18 now. Was it 30 and then it went down by 12 in the time it took me to sit? That would be wild. Are we playing bingo? No. I'm not going to do that yet. What order did I put the stuff in the title in? Nintendo Direct is still happening.
That's like
The fuck is this?
yeah.
Wait, why am I on IGN live stream? Why am I not just on the Nintendo Direct? I don't want to watch IGN. Okay, whatever. Is this like a remake of Superstar Saga or something? It looks gorgeous. I definitely dig this art style. It doesn't look anything like the GBA game, if it is the GBA game. Maybe it's just a new one, but... I'm really happy that, like, you know, Nintendo being, like, kind of stuck on the same generation of graphics for such a long time. They've just gotten better at making that level of graphics look good, you know? Like, just stylistically. This looks great. Looks a lot better than any of the other Mario games I could think of. Oh, I'm not even showing it on screen. There we go. Look at this. Mario and Luigi Brothership. Okay. It looked pretty good. Sorry I didn't have the camera on it the whole time I was reacting to it.
Hello everyone, I'm Shinya Takahashi.
Alright, well now it's the boring part. I don't care about that. Y'all wanna watch this Ladyboy anime with me? This one with the... I hate when my phone decides to push through a potential spam call. Let's watch this. Let's see if I can get away. Let's see if I can get through copyright. Just simply by having it like kind of off in the distance. All right, yeah. Viewing party. Let's go. Let's watch the Ladyboy anime. This is I reincarnated as the 7th prince. No chatterbait. Definitely an interesting visual format. Oh, it's Dio. when Takahito Koyasu is the first voice you hear. Well, I guess technically the second voice because you heard the gasping. That looked cool. I really do like the way they're doing the visuals and the sound in the scene. This is how you make something cheap look interesting. It feels like it's like somehow like lost footage of a 90s anime that was only recorded on like papyrus. Like a VHS running papyrus paper. Huh. Whoa, what the fuck? This is trippy. I really like this weird visual effect they got going here. This like visualizer shit. He's a literal baby. Incredible. So far, this is cute and incredibly well directed. Storyboard. I don't want to get flagged for the song. It is a native isekai. Yeah, I could tell that. That was interesting, actually. That was the first thing that caught my attention, is that it's rebirth, but not from another. It's not from our world, which is way more interesting. Like, oh, okay, so he was already a magic user? Like, that looks terrible. So far, the backgrounds are the one real drawback of this. 3D asset, big castle 3D asset. Cool shot. Like, the shot compositions really are like pulling a lot of weight here, which is a good thing. That means a lot to me as somebody who likes, who like really cares about storyboarding and stuff and like composition, but. I also care about everything else too, so cute. What supple thighs. What a gosh dang cutie. I gotta say, as adorable as this kid's outfit is, it does not look comfortable. Like when I try to imagine actually wearing that and like running around in that, I'm like, it would feel like it's riding up all the time because it's like, it has like deliberate tug, you know, like in order for it to create that sensation of always being like pulled tight in certain places and then loose in other places. Like you would always feel the exact places where it's tight, you know? I guess it doesn't always look quite so tight. Like in that shot, it looks kind of loose. It's more like an overalls. That fucking sassy ass pose though. Touching tips. He's not that into combat. He'd prefer to go learn some magic shit. But he's got this ridiculously badass maid training him in sword skills. Just to be sure you know he's got the sword skills. So I like the idea, it's kind of a clever metaphor that he's cheating by way of, like, you know, Pinocchio has the wooden nose that grows, and he took his wooden sword and made it grow a little bit, like, symbolizing the lie. This is ridiculous. I'm glad if they're gonna do the spinning around fight thing that they would take it to such a ridiculous extreme that they're like literally upside down though. That was fun. It really is like just a more clever usage of like lots of stuff that sucks in other contexts but has been done well here. Like, this is what I want. It feels like, it really does feel like the late 90s to me in that like it feels like the first time I've seen something this cheap that felt like it was this confident about what it's doing, you know? Like just, yeah, we know exactly what it's gonna look like, you know? Other than like, I guess a Shaft anime, but Shaft anime doesn't usually have as much movement. And was not as like, I mean, I guess I haven't seen as much newer Shaft anime, but this has that like, really using all of the space of the pixels, if that makes sense, like the HD framework of it. Like just simply a 90s anime could not have fit as much detail into the screen without it being like, you know, downscaling like a massive painting or something. Just putting them right in the tits. They really did make an anime just for KT cosplay. Damn, she's really hot though. The rare, actually hot anime girl. I'm like kind of blown away. Unbelievable. his fucking titty labyrinth and go find that library. I appreciate that he doesn't really care about all the sexual attention. You know, that like it's there, and he's neither like like weirdly awkward about it, like what's his name from Ayato? Was that the one? The fucking guy from goddamn Master Score? But he's also not like overindulgent or being a weird pervert about it like Mushoku Tensei. It's like, if anything, it makes all the girls seem weird. You know, it makes them seem like they're all fetishizing this little boy, and he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna go read, you know? I can't help but think about No Longer Human, like how, like that whole story was about how like traumatized that guy was because like 4 of his aunts like looked at his dick when he was a kid, and like what would that do to you too? Like, I mean, this kid seems like he's doing fine, but I just can't help thinking of that when I see like that scene. I know it's this thing. I really dig the little cape or whatever. That reminded me of a scene from King of Bandits Jing. And also in Spirited Away, when No Face makes all the gold appear in his hand. Why is there like death metal screaming in the soundtrack all of a sudden? Cute.
見てたから君は魔術の際に恵まれてるみたいだしね。
血にも才にも恵まれぬ貴様のような盆栽に
Deal.
魔術が微笑むことは。そうだな。魔術の質が血や才に比例するというのなら間違いなく庶民よりかは恵まれた。
This kid actually looks just like my character from fucking Terra Online, but with blue, by which I mean any Ellen from Terra Online. He's just a boy Ellen. If anybody hasn't seen them, they're these big ass thighed, like bunny eared lolly girls. But the whole race is like this, and he looks just like one of them, except that the Ellens were all girls, I think. So he's like a trans Ellen or something. We already have a trans Ellen in this chat. Is this where we get the dojin where he bangs that goat demon thing? shot. That's also a cool shot. I do feel like this show makes an interesting like study in lolly shota art, because it is very much that. It is definitively lolly shota art, and to me, what that means is like a combination of childish and adult features, like a deliberate. There has to be both. Like to me, lolly doesn't necessarily mean, because there is some stuff that just like looks like a child, and you're like, well, that just looks like a child. You know, that's not lolly to me. Lolly is like when they combine like words. I'd be live streaming.
I gotta water the grass.
You're going to water the grass, you said?
I have to water the grass because Mom is working all day. So.
Those are cool shorts.
Thank you.
But yeah, to me, it only becomes shota or lolly if it has like some exaggerated like broad hips or like weirdly luscious lips, you know, like the stuff that makes you go, well, okay, like that doesn't look like you're deliberately emphasizing the like mature aspects of the character on top of making them look young, you know. It's a weird combination that to me only exists in art. That's what makes it so different, you know. But this show is playing it up to like the 10th degree. It's crazy, actually. It's crazy that this is as popular as it is. But it shows you the Fujo growth, the growth of the fungal growth of the Fujoshi. Also, this character is just like a freak. Just an absolute freak. Motherfucker grew a second head. You know who he reminds me of is the detective girl from Hyoka. When she's like, you know, I'm full of curiosity or whatever, like. But his is like interesting. That looks cool. That was badass looking. Well, my impression of this is that it's cute. It's very well made. Um, the personality is kind of infectious. I like that the kid is just like so excited about everything and just like I want to learn. I'm gonna kick ass. And I'm kind of a weird sadomasochist, but it doesn't. Nothing about it grabs me in a personal kind of way. I'm not like, oh, I can't wait to see more of this. It's like, oh, that was fine. That wasn't suffering, you know. But it's nothing I've seen in my like, I can't wait to know what happens next. This creature reminds me of that, what was it called? Azazel-san? Yonde Masu yo Azazel-san? Yeah, alright, that was cute. I'm definitely dropping it, but I was like kind of hoping it would be like monstrously bad or something and I could make fun of it and make money off of it, but instead it's just good and normal. And anime seems fine. Maybe that'll be the message of my my sequel to The Astro Score Sucks. It will be actually we did it. We saved anime. Anime's fine. Nothing shitty happening here. I don't know, is there like a really shitty anime that's popular right now? Or are we past that era? Have we passed the shitty anime era? Okay. I have some other stuff that I put in the title of this video about that I want to do. Good, normal, that wasn't suffering. Yeah, indeed. Reading back through everything in the chat. Okay. Alright, we've gotten through our Clipiverse segment, we've gotten through our Ladyboy anime segment. Nintendo Direct is still going on. So let's talk about the genre of post-prog music. This is probably where I'm going to lose a lot of you. You don't give a shit at all, but it's fine. I'm going to do some musical revisionist history here today, all right? As far as I know, not post-prog. Well, do I want to call it... No, I want to call it Prog-core, I think, right? Maybe? Post-prog or Prog-core? It's hard to decide. So, in the 90s, there was like this big shift in music genre where like on like the underground sphere throughout the 80s, you had like the burgeoning metal genre and the burgeoning punk genre. And as I understand it, by the way, Finn McKenzie talks about it, knows a lot about the history of these things. Metal and punk did not get along. They did not get combined until such a point as the early 90s. And when bands like Nirvana and grunge really got popular, it kind of sat somewhere in that interstitial, somewhere, you know, a little harder than rock, a little harder than punk, but also a little rougher than metal, you know? And so it kind of created this spot where you could have these bands that were influenced by metal and by punk and by progressive rock and by just like all of this music from the 70s and 80s that was getting distilled and you know, through stuff like MTV just showing you stuff from all these various genres. Like, you know, you got people who are growing up hearing all of these sounds and combining them into one. So in the 90s, there's a lot of these musical movements that were more so defined by where they were, but this was also the beginning of the internet age, where more so bands are finding out about stuff that's happening outside of where they are and being influenced by that. And a couple of genres that I'm really going to focus on here: Midwest emo, post-rock, screamo, post-hardcore. Like, there's a whole bunch of bands that similarly kind of draw from like mathcore. Like, basically bands that are all combining some aspect of like indie rock, punk rock, a little bit of metal, but most importantly like prog and technical stuff. Like bands that just brought a more technical edge to those genres, but without becoming about the technicality, if that makes sense. And there's different kind of schools of even progressive rock, right? Like there's the Yes brand of progressive rock, which is like incredibly tight song crafting. Everybody's playing like perfectly all the time, and every note falls exactly where it needs to. And then there's the King Crimson brand of prog, which is more about the experimentation, and it is still incredibly technical, but it's about doing technically weird things that nobody's really discovered yet, you know? And sometimes you get bands that combine both of these ethoses. I mean, King Crimson has aspects of both of those things. They have the, you know, the more tight prog songwriting, and then they also have the particularly weird experimental shit and the outright improvisational passages in a lot of their songs. The Mars Volta would be a perfect example to me of a band that was really going for like going all the way into the tight, perfectly crafted songs and all the way into the experimentation at the same time, you know, just like doing both to the maximum all the time. But also, they're a product of post-hardcore and punk and this early 90s scene, because, you know, the Mars Volta is a direct spin-off, if you will, from At the Drive-In. And At the Drive-In was one of the most important bands. They're probably the most important band to defining this genre that I'm about to talk about, like what I'm trying to revisionist history here with my graph I'm about to make. Because early At the Drive-In doesn't sound that different from other Midwest emo. Like, it's twinkly riffs, kind of mathy sounding, you know, you got like a soft, twinky guy singing. The lyrics are definitely weirder, and they had a little bit more experimentation than most of those bands did. But like, again, early At the Drive-In really doesn't sound that different from other Midwest emo. So like, when you start getting into the later part of their career in the late 90s is when they start getting really experimental, really interesting, incorporating more of these post-rock elements, with that just starting to become more of a genre in and of itself, you know, post-hardcore. They are considered like probably the biggest band in the genre that is called post-hardcore. But post-hardcore also encompasses a pretty big range of sound, and most post-hardcore is not as like proggy as even At the Drive-In, you know? And it kind of varies from album to album, like how much they're trying to just sound like abstract over just like raw and hard. And clearly when they became the Mars Volta, they made a pretty big shift into like, okay, now we're art band, you know? But they didn't have a genre label for this at the time. People were calling it art rock for the most part. Like magazines and stuff would call this, but they were putting them in the same category as System of a Down in that. And like, there's certainly crossover in their fan bases. They toured together. I don't know if I would put them in the same musical genre necessarily. And lots of stuff was just getting labeled art rock. Just anything that they couldn't figure out, like, how do we categorize this in a way anyone will understand? You know, it's artsier than most rock music. What would I say is the feature of post-hardcore? Basically, being more indirect and washed out. Here, we'll use some examples. Post-hardcore. I want to see what comes up first if I just type this into YouTube. Bring Me the Horizon. Alright. This is like the most famous post-hardcore band probably of now. At the drive-in was in the 90s, you know. This is definitely on the heavy side of what I would consider post-hardcore. Basically, like, what you're looking for is stuff that sounds like hardcore punk or like, but with more of a washed out sound, you know? Like, it's got the same intensity, it's got the same types of riffs, but instead of like hitting you hard and fast with them, it's hitting you sort of soft and slow with them, you know? Maybe soft is the wrong word. To be honest with you, I don't listen to a lot of post-hardcore, which is kind of why I'm creating this chart of prog-core, what I'm going to call prog-core, or maybe post-prog. I haven't decided yet. Because progressive rock, and it's especially funny to me to think of there being a genre called post-progressive. But we are kind of post-progressive, because like what people consider progressive rock is usually just stuff that sounds like Yes, which is a style of music created in the 70s. So to continue calling that progressive is funny in and of itself because it's not making any progress. So I feel like where prog rock actually started making progress is in toning down the progness of it, you know? Now you might call this stuff also avant-garde, but usually that gets reserved for stuff that's like so, you know, out there that it's not connected to any genre. This stuff is still hardcore on some level, you know, it's still in the heavy rock vein, you know, it's still stuff you're supposed to mosh to or jam to or slam dance, or not if you're at the drive-in show. They frown on that. But it's, you know, it's music you're meant to bop your head to, get angry artsy music. Let's call it that. Artsy music that's very angry. So like, I would consider At the Drive-In, they're kind of considered definitional post-hardcore. So to me, if we're going to go all the way to prog-core, if we're going to make that a distinct genre from the rest of post-hardcore, it has to start with the Mars Volta. Because again, the Mars Volta doesn't really have a genre. People have called it modern prog, but that just refers to it being progressive rock that is modern, and like the stuff that has fallen into that genre is pretty broad. So I think it makes more sense to put it in what we're going to call it post-prog, because that's the funniest name we can have for this. How do I make a title for this? Options, here we go, title. Post-prog essentials. So this is going to be our guide to music that is simultaneously prog, but also post-hardcore, basically. Post-rock, post-hardcore, that kind of area, but it's prog. So to me, the Mars Volta is the most essential band in this genre. And I would say if you want to understand post-prog, you really got to start with their first album, Deloused in the Comatorium, however you want to say it. It's got the, it comes in charging with like, there's like a long, kind of weird, trippy, artsy intro, and then this like, like heavy hitting riff. But the way it ends up leading into a song, it's not like, it doesn't sound like hardcore. It's hardcore riffs, but it doesn't sound like hardcore. It definitely doesn't sound like prog rock, I think it's its own genre. And there is a lot of stuff, though, that kind of sounds like this genre, now that it exists. Now that we have the Mars Volta and we have Deloused in the Comatorium. When I was a kid, I was very confused because I thought there would be a lot more music that sounded like the Mars Volta. Like, I just kind of assumed any music that you hear must belong to like a genre. There must be a bunch more of it where that came from. And it took a long time before anything even existed that I could, like, it was more like, this kind of reminds me of the Mars Volta, like, going forward, There wasn't a lot that I could go back through time and be like, I mean, they obviously were influenced by Yes and King Crimson. They obviously were influenced by, the whole post-hardcore genre and their own upbringing as a band in that genre. But there is nothing before the Mars Volta that really sounds like them. So we're going to start that for our post-prog essentials. Now, in contemporary with them, there were other bands that I think were chasing this kind of sound. I've been hugely standing this band Shiner from Kansas City. And the reason I found out about them is that when I was looking into the history of At the Drive-In and looking through the article on post-hardcore, they came up, and I was in Kansas City at the time, so I was like, oh, neat. And there's a couple post-hardcore bands from there. But Shiner is a band that got more and more prog influenced as they went. King Crimson is, again, a very obvious influence on them. And I would say that The Egg, in particular, their fourth album? Yeah, their fourth album. I mean, their album before this, Starless, is also definitely going in like a proggier direction, but it's more like alternative rock. It's more in the vein of like a Perfect Circle or something, like just pretty experimental alternative rock. The Egg is like where it goes full on prog, where you're getting like long, weird passages and totally different song structures and just like very dizzying sound, and it doesn't give you that hard-hitting, like their previous albums before this, with the exception of Starless being more alt-rock, like their first two albums were much more heavy-hitting. They were much more in the post-hardcore vein. They definitely belonged in that genre. But The Egg, to me, is where they kind of transcended into post-prog. Now, it's hard to, again, draw a line. Let me let this cat out of the garage. Go. Get out of there. That cat has fucked up the what's the like piece of rubber between the door and the door? Okay, so we've got Shiner, we've got the Mars Volta. The next thing that springs into my mind is Doppelganger by The Fall of Troy. Now this is probably closer to post-hardcore, but it is notable as an album in that it is so much more like technically dense than the average post-hardcore album. The guitarists are just going absolutely insane the entire time. and it's almost like gent-y at times. It's definitely like harder than the first two albums I put on this list. It's definitely more close to hardcore than just post rock or prog. But I do think it fits in this vein. It's going for some of the same shit. I'm tempted also to put the Dillinger Escape Plan here because they're considered like the ultimate mathcore band, right? But they didn't necessarily stay that way. Like, as they went, they got more experimental, they got more proggy. I'm tempted to say Ironworks would be their most, like, in tune with everything else on this list. Or maybe even, I really like Option Paralysis. Like, actually, no. Let's go with my favorite EP of theirs, the Irony is a Dead Scene EP, because that's the one where it's only 4 tracks and it's Mike Patton on vocals, and each song is just like a long, multi-part, strange, conceptual epic, where the lyrical content is a lot more like experimental than usual. Like a lot of Dillinger's music, the lyrics are just like about madness and, you know, kind of more standard metal lyrics. This album, the first song is about Hollywood Squares, and there's a song about, God, I don't even know how to describe what these songs are about. One of them's a Come to Daddy cover, an Aphex Twin cover, that sounds just completely fucking insane, and I rapped over it on my song Run With That Shit. See, I would say that's probably their most prog. Again, they're like a bit heavier than the first two things I put on here. Definitely more in the mathcore, post-hardcore realm, but they get really proggy sometimes, which is why I think they belong here. Alright, I'm going to now put on the most obvious thing that I think belongs on here. Like, if I had to pick a definitional album for this genre, it's The Ocean and the Sun by The Sound of Animals Fighting. You know, everybody in this band basically is from, I mean, even predating this, right? So the band RX Bandits, I would put them in this genre too. RX Bandits sounds like if you took the post-hardcore sound of something like At the Drive-In, but just like made the prog influence is a little bit more obvious, maybe a little bit more like Iron Maiden influence added in. I think this is the album of theirs that I've probably heard, And the Battle Begun. I have never dived that deep into RX Bandits because I only know them for the fact that they are like the foundational members of The Sound of Animals Fighting, aside from Anthony Green, the vocalist from Circa Survive, from the first Seosin album, which that probably could be on here too, or Seosin EP. That first Seosin EP, is it the one with the bug? I can't remember, hold on. Whichever one has 7 years, that's the song I know. Okay, it's the white bottom one. Yeah, that can go on here. Because it's definitely I feel like the sound of this EP like somehow sprang out into, you know, all of this happening, like all the stuff that came from the post-hardcore end into this more so, like, well, I guess At the Drive-In, I guess all of this really kind of comes from the post-hardcore end in. That's why I'm putting it in here. It's basically just post-hardcore bands that went really prog at least once. That's the best way I can describe post-prog. What I'm building here. A chart of would-be post-hardcore bands that became a little too prog. So we've so far got the Mars Voltas, the Lows in the Comatorium, Shiners the Egg, the Fall of Troy's Doppelganger, the Dillinger Escape Plan's Irony is a Dead Scene, the Sound of Animals Fighting, the Ocean and the Sun, RX Bandits and the Battle Begun, Seosin's Translating the Name. Okay, what else do I need for this? Prog hardcore. Does anybody in the chat know any more bands like this? If you want to recommend any, let me know. You wrote Between the Door and the Door sounds like a prog album. That reminds me of Between the Buried and Me. they belong on here as well. I don't know if I think Colors is necessarily their best album, but it's definitely their best known for being like prog hardcore. But yeah, that definitely belongs in there. We could probably also include, oh, what the fuck is that band called? KO Dot. KO Dot, yes. This is more on the like really experimental prog side, the like chaos jazz side of prog. With metal content in it. Also probably closer to prog metal than like KO Dot might be just considered a prog metal band, but I feel like they're a little too fucking weird to just be called prog metal. Like their sound is so chaotic. You hope I read chat and see the recommendation? Slint? No, I wouldn't put Spiderland in here because it's not hardcore enough. I would put that just as post-rock. That to me is the start of post-rock, is Spiderland. And it's already considered massively influential on that whole genre. You know, like Spiderland is like a direct line to like Mogwai existing and you know, countless other bands that were doing that more like detuned, soft version of grunge. But these bands are heavy. This music is hard, you know, it's intense. So I'd say Slint is like definitely influential on all of this probably, but like I'm sure all these bands have heard Spiderland, but I think that's more post-rock than post-hardcore. Great album though, but it's nowhere near as heavy as any of this. Let me think, what else do I need on here? It's possible there are not even 25 essential albums in this genre, but we're gonna try our best. So I'm considering, I don't think Circa Survive is heavy enough to fit in this either. They're probably like just, I mean like Blue Sky Noise is just like an alt rock album. Like I wouldn't even go so far as to call it post-hardcore. It's just like just straight up alternative rock. So I'm gonna leave out Circa Survive. We've already got Seosin and Sound of Animals Fighting, but it should show you that Anthony Green is truly the voice of this genre. Between Cedric Bixler-Zavala and Anthony Green is the sound of this genre, which is basically the highest pitched twink you could possibly find. Is the key to good post-prog. Obviously, Fall of Troy is in that competition as well. Shiner is the exception. Shiner, that guy's got a really low voice. Still a lot of trans themes in those lyrics, though. I mean, the album's called The Egg. Come on. It's literally called The Egg. Do you think that band has other albums besides Blue Sky Noise that may apply? I don't think so. I mean, their early stuff is heavier, but I don't think anything would fall in here. Again, we've already got The Sound of Animals Fighting, which is like way proggier than Circa Survive. So if we put them on here, it would dilute the progginess of this list by a lot. All of this is pretty, like, so far, the least proggy albums on here are probably The Egg and Doppelganger, and those are still deeply proggy albums. So that's saying something. It's turning out proggier than I expected it to. Like, I'm surprised I can even think of so many bands that I'm like, oh yeah, that also would go in here. You know what? A good idea might be to go over to the Needle Drop and his list of whatever he considers prog albums lately, and see if we find some bands that I know belong in here. Does he have a specific prog playlist? Maybe not. Well, we've got Loud Rock, so that might help. Let's see what we've got here. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard is like not heavy enough to fit into this. I guess I would just consider them like traditional psychedelic progressive rock. Not like a new genre or anything. Boris. Ooh, does Boris have an album I'd categorize here? Because Boris gets really experimental. And they definitely are in the vein of like prog post-hardcore. Especially stuff like this album, like the new Heavy Rocks was like fucking strange. Let me go play some of that and we'll decide based on that. I don't know if it's quite the same thing as this other stuff. No, that didn't do what I thought it would do. Okay, Boris, Heavy Rocks 2022. I'm gonna decide right here and now if I think this is prog. No, this is more like... This is more like no wave. More like, almost like Swans sounding. They got a lot of drone. They got a lot of, punk, post-hardcore type shit. Man. I don't know if there's a Boris album that I think belongs here. They're close though. They definitely orbit this sound. Have I heard of Wrong by No Means No? It's way earlier than most of these bands, but it also sounds more punky. I have not. Let's try it out. This sounds awesome. This definitely sounds like RX Bandits. You know what? I think this definitely belongs here. I don't know what this is considered to be, but it definitely belongs here. So I'm putting it on. Good suggestion. Mostly just because the guitar work sounds so much like Sound of Animal Spider. Yeah, that goes hard. Do I think Tool belongs in here? I don't think so. They're too... I guess I would consider them more like alt-prog. If I had a separate alt-prog list, I'd have them in it with like Porcupine Tree and like Dream Theater's alter work. This is more... I almost would be tempted to put the first Tool album, but I think it's a little more just like hard rock. I don't think it's quite as so far as to be prog. Yeah, literally, like how 1980 died. How did they sound like that? But there's always like bands that were super good and super influential and never really like blew up or became known. But like, if you actually ask the popular bands, like, who are your influences? You'll like hear those names come up, you know? Ooh, Soul Glow is almost tempting to put on here because, I mean, they're hardcore punk just with like, just enough like, what the fuck, you know, to almost be like prog-ish. Fire Tools is like a lot more digital, but I'm tempted. Let's listen to some Fire Tools and see if we think they could make it onto this genre list. Sure, let's just pick the very first song we hear. To every squirrel that has ever been hit by a car, I'm sorry, I love you. So far, I'm thinking this might be a yes. That's some hella clusterpunk aesthetic right there. Hell yeah. This is like the heaviest song I've ever heard by Fire Tools, actually. Holy shit. Fuck yeah. What the fuck? This goes off. This only has 790 views. I'm gonna subscribe to Fire Tools. Okay, what album though? What album does that new song come from? Does it have to? This doesn't sound like the same. This doesn't sound like what I'm looking for though. Is it this? This thing? This brand new? Just come out fucking an hour ago? This is fucking complete insanity. Oh wait, this isn't even Fire Tools. This is Angel Wings Marmalade. Well, that sounds completely fucking insane. Okay, so I guess there's a second... I guess they have two groups or something, two different, Breeze is the album, okay. Jesus Christ, that's a lot of fucking product options. Full album released July 5th, so it's not out yet. Is it listed on Popsters is the question. Looks like it is. No, it's not. I don't know. But yeah. There we go. Oh no, I don't want the single one. Each of these is like listed as a single instead of as an album because the album is not out yet. Okay, whatever. You get it. That album, when it's out, will be on the list. Although it is kind of maybe a little heavier than most of this stuff. hey, I just got a super chat from Starfreak for 50 knock. I don't know what those are. I've watched hours and hours of your streams and find them really easy to draw to, so thought it's about time you got some money. Thank you very much. That is literally my hope, is that people will draw while watching this stuff. Historically, I've always gotten like the most watch time from visual artists. Visual artists will throw my stuff on like all day while they draw. So I do tend to think about like, what do I think people would want to hear while they're drawing is like the first thought I have about when I consider who I think is the bulk of my audience. It's also why on Twitter I retweet so much visual art, because I have it in my head that I've got a bunch of visual artists following me, so I'm constantly trying to affect their taste by just showing them cool imagery. But that's, you know, that's on the down low. That's the lower level thought that I operate my career on. Do I think Mastodon belongs here? I would say... I'm tempted to say that the last, what's it called, Crack the Sky could be on here. Like, again, they're more in the metal category. I wouldn't really call them post-hardcore. They're definitely friends with all of these bands. I think they're definitely influenced by all this. But like, particularly Crack the Sky is like a hard album to classify. And I think it would probably be liked by a lot of the same people who like this stuff. I mean, certainly I grew up with all of this in equal measure, you know. Let's see how we feel about, like, is this too metal somehow? I don't know. At this point, I feel like I've gone in on a lot of metal bands. A lot of people think the Mars Volta's metal. This actually isn't the song I wanted. I wanted the track 2, but like that just sounds like a Mars Volta riff. Yeah, no, there's no way that doesn't belong here. That belongs right in between D-Louse and the Covatorium and fucking The Ocean and the Sun in terms of how it sounds. Okay. Hey y'all, what's going on? We're building a post-prog essentials playlist. Basically, you know, all the post-rock bands or metal bands that got really prog influenced / influenced by one another and created what I'm calling a genre. What I'm basically using my power of revisionist history to decide that this is now a genre, including the Mars Volta, Shiner, The Fall of Troy, The Dillinger Escape Plan, Sound of Animals Fighting, RX Bandits, Seosin, Between the Buried and Me, KO Dot, No Means No, Fire Tools, and Mastodon so far, but only specific releases. I don't think... There's only a couple of these bands. The reason the Mars Volta leads off this chart is they're the only band that has completely stayed within this genre. I would say the Mars Volta, The Sound of Animals Fighting, those are like the two definitional bands of like everything they made is progressive post-hardcore. Like every album. Anything else I've got on here, I've got like an album that I think probably goes in this genre, but doesn't necessarily mean the whole band goes in this genre. Maybe RX Bandits, I haven't listened to them that much though. And maybe No Means No. I mean, I just discovered them through this stream just 15 minutes ago, but yeah, to me, the Mars Volta and the Sound of Animals Fighting are like the definitional, we were post-hardcore bands that decided we were more into prog, and now we've got this, you know? But a lot of these bands took influence from them. I mean, this is basically, this genre pretty much whole cloth sprang into existence in the year 2000, when At the Drive-In left their label at the drive-in, the biggest major label post-hardcore band, broke up and reformed as the Mars Volta and basically just totally created a new genre. And that's what we're exploring here. And I do think Deloused is still the earliest album I've got here. Like, most of these bands existed before that, but Shiner wasn't as experimental before that. Dillinger wasn't as experimental before that. Sound of Animals Fighting basically came into existence after this. Mastodon became more experimental after they became friends with the Mars Volta, So as far as I'm concerned, this is all the Mars Volta trickle-down effect, essentially. Just because they had such a major label debut. They made it look like this was somehow possible. Even like Laura Les from 100 Gex has cited the Mars Volta, like discovering the Mars Volta as her realization that you can just kind of do whatever you want. It's like, how the fuck did they think they could get away with this, They did. Stayed on that major label somehow. Omar Rodriguez Lopez has released like 100 solo albums since 2004. Most of which are not hardcore enough to go on this. Like, the Mars Volta is pretty much the hardcore band in terms of prog. Like, the rest of the stuff he does is just experimental weird shit for the most part, or like salsa or jazz or just totally other genres, folk, acoustic music and shit. Okay, what else belongs here? Hella. The band Hella. Particularly, I would say their album There's No 666 in Outer Space. Is this the album cover for that? Yeah, okay. Yeah, Hella, that's the band that, Zach Hill played drums for before he became Death Grips and a billion other great bands. Hella started off more just like pure mathcore, and then they slowly started sounding more and more like the Mars Volta, while the Mars Volta slowly started sounding more and more like Hella. Did I have time to meet Endless Jest while in Texas? No, I was not there for long. I was not trying to stick around in Texas. I have a lot of friends in Texas I would have liked to see. If we had time, we would have seen Kale, Bat Eater. So yeah, I didn't have time to even see Kale. That was unfortunate. Anyway, more bands. What else belongs in this genre? We've so far got 13 out of 25. I think I can come up with 25 to fill this out. I have to go piss though. And I'm trying to also avoid anything I don't personally like co-sign. Like, I don't necessarily love this KO Dot album or this Between the Buried and Me album, but I think they're fine. I could see putting like Protest the Hero on here, but I only like one song by that band. I know there's a lot of people really like, what the fuck is that other Wheedly Woodly band called? I'm not thinking of Davenport Cabinet, am I? I don't remember. There's another band that I've known people who like, but I've never been able to get into. I have to piss. I'll be back. I am back. Animals as leaders is gent. They're like the definitional gent band. Atomizer by Big Black, Yank Crime by Drive Like Jehu, or any of the Black Midi albums. Oh, Black Midi. Yes. Yes, Black Midi, definitely. Thank you. I forgot about Black Midi. Absolutely. Which one do I want? Hellfire or... I like Cavalcade, I think, the most. I don't want both. God damn it. Yes, Black Midi is the perfect example of this genre, in my opinion. Definitely just like pure, like, this is the next step after the Mars Volta to me, was Black Midi. It was like, yes, finally, prog has continued to progress, you know? I don't know Atomizer by Big Black. Although there was a Big Black song, I believe, sampled on our, on Gay and Dead. Buttfucker's Anthem, probably. This seems more like no wave, like Swans. Ooh. Oh, this rules. It's a hell of a riff. But yeah, I would say this is no wave. It's got that very empty, clunky sound. And then Yank Crime by Drive Like Jehu. God damn, this cat cannot decide if it wants in or out of the goddamn garage. Pick one, cat. Mama ain't home. She ain't coming home today. She's out working the poles. My mom is out working the poles today. Okay. Is clowncore prog? Yeah, I think so. I don't think they belong to this genre because they're too, like, tight. They're like progressive grindcore or something. I mean, that's just hip hop, right? Like, they're like a combination of, like, if Hella was a hip hop band. I mean, they kind of sound like Death Grips, honestly. It kind of sounds like Death Grips. Jazz. Hip hop jazz, maybe? Yeah, I would call this jazz hop. I would just call this, yeah, jazz funk, jazz hop. Something like that. Very technical hip hop. Pretty much. Oh, hey, the Nintendo Direct finished. We'll get to that next. Okay. What else is good post-prog? I'll go over the list we've got here again. We've got The Allows in the Comatorium by the Mars Volta, The Egg by Shiner, Doppelganger by Fall of Troy, Irony is a Dead Scene by the Dillinger Escape Plan, The Ocean and the Sun by The Sound of Animals Fighting, and The Battle Begun by RX Bandits, Translating the Name by Seosin, Colors by Between the Buried and Me, Habardo by Ko Dot, Wrong by No Means No, The Envy of the Heavenly Powers by Fire Tools. Actually, it's going to be just called Breeze, that album. I might even pick a different Fire Tools album. I don't want it to just be listed as a single, so let's go ahead and put this one. That's like their most famous album. Eternal Home by Fire Tools. Let's go with that. Crack the Sky by Mastodon. There's No 666 in Outer Space by Hella. Cavalcade by Black Midi. Okay. So post-hardcore prog combinations. Bands that are coming at it from both sides. What else? Post at the drive-in, progressive hardcore music. I guess I can keep looking through. Oh, I closed out of the Fantano list like a fool. Shit. Why isn't it in my recently closed? Oh, because I clown cored over it, didn't I? Okay. There's plenty of stuff I haven't heard either that I'm like, you know, maybe there's more to this genre that I just simply have not been made aware of yet. Like, I haven't listened to like almost any Bring Me the Horizon, so if they have an album that was like prog enough to go on here, I just simply wouldn't know about it. I feel like Boris probably has an album that could go on this list, but I don't know. Not Dance Gavin Dance. That's the other band I was thinking of. Dance Gavin Dance is definitely in this genre, but I have never heard an album of theirs that I like, so I don't want to put them on the list. Oh, what else? Fantano, you gotta review more post-prog for me. I'm all the way back. I'm already 7 years ago in your playlist here. I'm all the way back at fucking stage 4 in Dissociation. Oh my god, Baby Metal Metal Resistance album review featuring Digibro 8 years ago. Jesus Christ, I've gotten so far back. Maybe there's just not a lot of heavy music being reviewed by him anymore. Maybe he just doesn't, maybe he hasn't been updating the playlist. This was a pretty buried playlist. Like, it's pretty far down here. Maybe he's just not categorizing things the same way anymore. I feel like there must be more than this. We cannot stop here. We cannot stop at 14. There's gotta be 25 worthwhiles. Statistically, Boris has to, right? I feel like that must be the case. Let's see if... Wait, I don't want to close out of this Nintendo Direct. See if the album No fits the description. I remember this being weird. No, it's too heavy. Too sludgy. every Boris album. Holy shit. No way. You know, it's tempting to say that Flood could be on here. Because what is this if not a progressive post-hardcore album? But if I put this on, we're opening the door for ISIS to be on here. I don't know if I agree with that. This might be proggier than ISIS because it's got this whole fucking bit at the start. And this is a very like King Crimson type of a prog thing going on there. What do y'all think? Do you think Flood belongs on this list? I think it might. Rainbow's not heavy enough. Smile is definitely an odd album, but I don't know if I call it bad. There's also the 2011 Heavy Rocks. See, that sounds a little closer to the sound of animals fighting. That also kind of sounds like the right genre. That sounds like some weird prog. Oh, I love this song. I think this might be the one. I think Heavy Rocks 2011 might be our Huckleberry. Let's do it. Boris, Heavy Rocks 2011. Let's go. All right, we got a Boris on there. Let's go. Yeah, I agree. Flood is too ambient. This is just right. Particularly that song, this one. Oh no, that's too far. Hold on. This one. Tu la la. Tu kama la la. That is the epitome of the post-prog sound right there. So yeah, Boris, you did it. You got onto the list. I knew you had it in you. Okay, now that we finally moved past Boris, let's see, when I type 2000s prog rock, I get the Mars Volta. I've heard some, oh right, Coheed and Cambria. Their first album. So, Coheed and Cambria, they come from an interesting place in that when they came out, they were like put into the emo category because they came out when like the emo, screamo, post-hardcore like scene was really coming up, and like by rights they should have been compared to like Midwest emo and post-hardcore, and like they were influenced by At the Drive-In, like they definitely were in that sound, but they were not part of the emo they actually got compared to, you know? So like I think they I think they were probably more influenced by the Mars Volta than any of the bands they were being like toured with at the time, you know? And like I would say they got more prog but less hardcore as they went on. Where like by the time you get to their third album, they're just a prog rock band. But like their first album, when I think about songs like Neverender, like I'm gonna play a little bit of that real quick. Even though I know I'll get copyright claimed for Kohi because I have already for this album, but we'll do a live version. No, I don't want just the show Neverender. I want the song Neverender. Yeah, that's post-prog. That definitely belongs in there. Doi. I don't know why I didn't think of them sooner. Especially, I had that album popped into my head a couple of times. I just forgot to, like, say it. Maybe I thought about it before I started recording. Or before I got to this segment or something. Okay. What about 2010's prog rock? The Deer Hunter is not hard enough, I think. Wow, the Deer Hunter Act 5 is that beloved, huh? People really like that one. I don't know why I couldn't connect with that album. That was Asher's favorite. I know it made her really sad because she like bought the album for me and I was like, I don't really like it though. But they're, well, I don't know. They're definitely highly influenced by the Mars Volta. You know what? I would say their first album maybe could belong on here. Now that I'm thinking about it, because their first album, City Escape, is obviously trying to sound like not the Sonic Adventure song. Yeah, Deer Hunter, thank you. This song is very much. I honestly forgot that they started off sounding like that because they never quite got that like heavy again. I feel like. But yeah, that one works. That one can go on. Okay. Never really listened to a lot of these. Like, I'm sure some of these bands, like Thank You Scientist or whatever, probably are in this genre, but I have not listened to them and don't know if they are any good. So fascinating. Opeth? Opeth is too heavy. That's where we're getting into definitively metal. I could include more than one album from certain bands also. If I really wanted to wrap this list up quickly, I would just start putting more Mars Volta albums on it. Because, you know, Francis the Mute and Amputecture and arguably Bedlam and Goliath are all, like, as good as Deloused in the Comatorium, I would say. I don't know if they're as necessarily essential to understanding this genre, but is there another band? I mean, the first Sound of Animals Fighting album also belongs on here, and like I could put another Black Midi album on here. Because truthfully, most of these bands could not have a second album on here. Truthfully, most of them have only kind of dabbled in this sound and then they kind of went off in a different direction, or they started off in a different direction and they just kind of stopped here for a bit. But it's really just the Mars Volta and the Sound of Animals Fighting maybe Between the Buried and Me and KO Dot, but they're both kind of more in the post. They're both more metal than like anything else on here, as well. And Black Midi is less hardcore, more just like freakish sounding, you know. But it legitimately might be the case that I could only add other albums from the Mars Volta and the Sound of Animals Fighting and like keep the spirit of the list intact. But I don't want to get that desperate, do I? Anybody else know any other suggestions? Maybe The Locust. Is that the name of a band? Number 12 Looks Like Me. Maybe they're like, I think they're a little too mathcore and just like scary. The Weekly Wars is one of my favorite songs. They had this one song from this album. It's fucking terrifying. Let's see if I can find it. I think it was like track 2. Is Wild Gods the album? I think it's this album. Is it this song? Yeah, this sounds right. Yeah, that's a little too much for this list, I think. That's a little too heavy, too scary. It's a little pushing past prog into just death metal territory. Neurosis, I think of as sludge. I'm more tempted to think of ISIS, but I just consider them post-metal, and I feel like to me, they're the same sound as post-rock, just with heavier riffs. You know, like, they're not necessarily trying to do, like, a whole proggy experimental thing, but at the same time, I mean, their song structures are definitely in that realm. To me, like, Shiner is like, if ISIS sounded prog, they would sound like Shiner. Like, if they just had if they were trying to sound more like King Crimson and less like Neurosis, they would sound like Shiner. I gotta pee again. I'll think about this while I'm up. Okay, I'm back. I had a sudden craving for Chinese food, which I haven't had any of in a long time. Alright. Anybody think of any new post-prog while I was gone? I really didn't. I just got I just got the song Sex Tapes by Protest the Hero stuck in my head, but that album is not good enough. It's a great song, it's just not a good enough album. Otherwise, I would put it on here. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see what the 2020s prog gives us. Elder, never heard of them. Ooh, the world is a beautiful place and I am no longer afraid to die. Yes. Yes. Particularly that album, Illusory Walls. Yes, thank you, thank you. Okay, we're back. We are back. Really good album. Ooh, Glass Beach. They might be on this. They might. Let's listen to some Glass Beach. See if we think they fit the bill. Abyss Angel Tour. That sounds neat.
I know you talk like the anime. I don't know the.
Coming up tonight at 11.
Well, that's not heavy enough. Let's see. Most of this is like tour videos. Here we go, their first album. I know I've heard this. It might not be heavy enough. Yeah. I don't know, I thought there was more of a rock sound to this album, but maybe not. Yeah, I'm not gonna go so far as to call that like post-hardcore. That's just straight up prog rock. Very cute. Cynic. Now Cynic is like classic prog metal, but they have kind of like gotten lighter sounding as they've gone. Let's see how this one sounds. I don't think I've spent a lot of time with this album ever. Huh, I don't know if I've heard this album. This might be exactly what I'm looking for. Oh yeah. Well, I don't know why I haven't heard this album, but this is exactly what I'm looking for. Cynic has totally gone Sound of Animals Fighting on there. So that's sick. Alright, we're getting Cynic on there. Dope. I have to listen to that whole album later. Deep Purple still makes albums? Damn. And Jethro Tull still makes albums? Damn. Okay, we've made a little bit more progress. I knew we weren't done yet. I feel like I've maybe heard And You Will Know Us by the Trail of Dead before. Let's see what that sounds like. White boy rips it at the Apollo. Wait, this cannot be. This is some comedian. Why is this in the why? Why is that in there? Okay. This definitely sounds weird. It's not heavy though. It's also boring. Okay, well they're a lot less heavier than I thought they would be based on their name. Okay. Let's try Ocean Size. I think they might be in this realm. That sounds too light. That sounds right. Kind of sounds like Dredge. Definite post-hardcore. Very washed out. Kind of sounds like Deftones. Let's see if they have something more proggy than that. That sounds pretty proggy. Doesn't sound that good though. I think this band belongs to this genre, but I don't know if I like them enough to put them on the list of essentials. But we'll definitely call them a part of the genre. Wake Up by Pope Francis. Makeshift Swahili, a 1981 song by Deceit. It's great and fits, but the rest of the album is maybe too weird for the chart. Interesting. Ooh, you just mentioned, I'm going back to the chat and I saw you mention Blood Brothers and I'm like, actually, maybe they belong on here. I would actually say this is too lacking the hardcore element. Like, this is closer to Slint in that sense of, like, just kind of, like, dark post-rock feel, but not, like, it doesn't have that heavy release, you know? Well, this probably just belongs as post-hardcore, right? I don't think it's quite proggy enough to be, like, in a different genre than At the Drive-In, the way the Mars Volta is. What is that Pope Francis thing that kept showing up? Why was that considered a prog album? What's going on here? What the fuck? Okay. Enough of that. I just saw Asian youth stand up and I'm like, what is going on this album? Okay, so what we've got, we're up to 19 albums on this list. And I do think I could fill the rest of it at this point with Mars Volta, Sound of Animals Fighting, throw in another World is a Beautiful Place album, and we could call this a day. What do y'all think? Is it time to start phoning it in and just throwing in more albums from the same bands? Because Francis the Mute is essential, obviously. And The Tiger and the Duke is essential, obviously. And specifically like the remaster one. If I can get one that lists it as the remaster, there we go, re-release. And the other Black MIDI album, Hit Hellfire, I'll throw that on there. And then what else did I say? We could probably do even more Mars Volta. Oh right, Sound of Animals Fighting, Harmlessness. That can go on there too. And then what? Amputecture. The part where I ran out of ideas. And finally, do we want the Bedlam and Goliath to really overdo it with Mars Volta albums? Or I don't think I can put another Shiner. I don't think I can put another Fall of Troy. I don't think I can put another Dillinger. I can't put another Sound of Animals Fighting. I don't know another RX Bandits. I can't do another Seosin. I don't know another Between the Buried and Me or KO. Album well enough. I don't know No Means No. Fire Tools' discography is too fucking weird. Mastodon only has one album that fits. Hella, I could put more Hella in here, but I feel like that album best represents their transition to prog. Their first album, though, definitely is in the vein of, like, it's still an album you would listen to if you like this stuff. We've got two Black Midis. We've got the only Boris we really need, the only Coheed we really need, the only Deer Hunter we really need. We've got the two good Sound of Animals, World is a Beautiful Place albums. Cynic, Mars Volta, more, okay. Could just delete a row and not cheat. Well, you know, these are essentials. They're all great. They're all great albums. Do I think I need to put the Bedlam and Goliath on here when there's already 3 of the Mars Volta albums? Probably not. But I mean, they are the genre. Like, and all those albums came out like 1 year after another. So they basically codified this whole thing at once. So yeah, fuck it. Listen to all the Mars Volta's first 4 albums. They're all post-prog essentials. Alright, here we go. Let's go. I'm downloading it. This is officially complete until further notice. Am I streaming in a garage? What the fuck? Why? Why is that? Yes. Why is that strange? And I cannot be the first person who's ever live streamed in a goddamn garage, right? times. What am I looking for? Why am I on Twitter? Oh, right, I'm here to tweet this image. Every time I come to Twitter with a specific purpose, I immediately get distracted by my notifications and then forget why I'm on Twitter. I'm here to retweet this stream along with the image. Okay. I made an essentials guide to post-prog albums, stuff that's too progressive to be post-hardcore on stream. And there we go, post-prog essentials. We did it, gang. We fulfilled the third purpose of what I said we were going to do in the title of the video. So now we've talked about Rippaverse goalposts talking about me on Twitter. We talked about get better material. I'm not a stand-up comedian, dude. Who are you? Okay. Okay. Now let's look at this Nintendo Direct, yeah. What are they talking about on here? I feel like if I were to get into video gaming, I'd want to do the Nintendo Switch. Because I like it, it's portable, it can handle as good of games as I ever want to play. But I've been kind of afraid, because it's been out for so long, that support for it's going to end right when I get into it. You know, like right when I start really trying to be a Switch fan, it'll suddenly be, oh, well now the Switch 2 is here, and who cares about the Switch 1? God damn, they left 45 minutes of headway before they started. Okay, so it basically started with this Mario and Luigi thing. Yeah, this looks cool. The graphics look really cool. I like the style of it. I don't know. I haven't played a Mario and Luigi game since the first one on the GBA, so I can't really see myself automatically playing this. But if I heard good reviews for it, I'd probably check it out. The artwork looks great. I will say that. It looks cool. Nintendo World Championship NES Edition? Why? Who cares? Is this just like a competition they're doing or something? Okay, I don't care about that. The final battle is about to begin. It's fucking... Is this Fairy Tail? Fairy Tail 2? So it's like a sequel to Fairy Tail, but it's a video game? Is that the idea? It's just Fairy Tail 2? Okay, odd. Dimensional Journey awaits. That looks like Shulk. Is this Xenoblade? Final Fantasy series creator Hironobu Sakaguchi. Oh, and composer Nobuo Uematsu. Fantasian Neo Dimension. Okay, well this just looks like an RPG. Yeah, this sure does look like an RPG. Wow, the graphics look like ass. Why does the background look so bad? Why does it look so shitty? Fantasian Neo Dimension. Well, hopefully it looks better than that in the final version. That looked kind of like shit. Cute little me basketball player, newly added sport. Okay, whatever. I like the hair. It's a good looking me. I like the shiny blue haired me's. I don't play Wii Sports though. Alright, show me something I would actually care about, Nintendo. Who the fuck is this little guy? This is cute. What the fuck is this thing? This thing looks awesome. What is it? Is this a fucking Pokemon? Is this a Journey 2? Journey Harder? Okay, it's a 2D platformer. I mean, this does look like the kind of game I would play. This literally looks like Gianna Sisters Twisted Dreams, but with a weird little alien guy. Meets Dust Force. Okay, it's got the combat of Dust Force. It's got like the exact same animations as Dust Force has. Maybe it's from the same team. I don't know. And then some kind of nearly identical Disney game. Very strange. Don't care about that. Hello Kitty! What's going on here? Is Sanrio Island? Oh, it is literally Hello Kitty's Island Adventure. So it's Animal Crossing with Hello Kitty on an island. And it's got a Gretzko. That's a maybe for me. That's a maybe. Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports. I definitely don't care about that. Looks like ass. Looks like a Wii game. Amogus. Raise your monster army. What in the fuck is this shit? Farmagia. It looks like Fairy Tail again. Oh, it's literally the same artist as Fairy Tail. So amazing. There's Fairy Tail and Fairy Tail coming to market, guys. So much Fairy Tail coming out. They trying to make him the new, like, now that Toriyama's dead, we gotta have Hiro Mashima do all our character designs? No, thank you. This looks like it's literally Donkey Kong Country again. Yeah, it's literally Donkey Kong Country HD. Okay. Super necessary. I'm sure everyone wanted this. It literally looks like not especially better than the Super Nintendo game. Okay. I mean, I'm guessing they just used the graphic engine from the Donkey Kong Returns games. Okay, what is this? Is this Dragon Quest? Is this like a remake of Dragon Quest 1 or something? Dragon Quest 3, HD 2D remake, okay. Maybe, I mean, I like the way it looks. It's one of the better looking HD 2D games I've seen. I would certainly rather play that than try to play Dragon Quest 3. Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remaster. Okay, yeah, I don't. Are there new video games available in the near future? Oh, God! Why does this look like a browser game? Oh, Jesus. They made a Funko Pop game. Oh, my God. Ugh. Douche chills. Jesus Christ. I didn't need to know that existed. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. So Luigi's Mansion 2 was like the 3DS game, right? Wait, the fuck is this? Is this an RPG? The new Denpa Men? It's a Denpa game? What the hell is going on here? What is this? I mean, I can't even tell what exactly this game is. It looks like Animal Crossing, and then suddenly we're looking at Metal Slug. Okay, cool, whatever. Metal Slug is on the Switch, I guess. I'm way more curious about that new Denpa Men game. Is this, okay, Darkest Dungeon 2. I never played Darkest Dungeon. These graphics look amazing, though. The artwork here looks fucking awesome. That might be one that I could see playing just because it looks so cool. I'm lying. I don't know why I'm lying. Hey, Four Swords Adventures coming to the GBA. Hey, Metroid Zero Mission coming to the GBA. Hey, Turok coming to the N64. Great. Perfect Dark. Why weren't these games already available? They're available later today. Oh my god, Phantom Brave remake? They really did it with like 3D graphics, huh? I mean, it looks adorable. The original had really great 2D art, and this actually looks as cute. Is this a sequel? I mean, it looked like the frame rate was chugging like ass there. So, like all Nipponichi games, it will probably run like fucking dog shit, but at least the graphics look mega cute. I want to take you for a ride. Marvel Superheroes. Okay, Marvel vs. Capcom. Cool. Yep. Sure is an old video game. Bigger, bolder Mario Party. No, thank you. I don't have that many friends. I am not here to play some Mario Party. Enough. Have I seen a single game I want to purchase out of this actually yet? I'm not sure. What is this? Cute little Zelda? Is this a sequel to Link's Adventure somehow? Or Link's Awakening, I mean? They made a sequel to the Link's Awakening remake somehow? Is that what we're seeing here? Is this a game where you play as Zelda? Oh my gosh. Do I get to be Zelda in the Link's Awakening world? Is that what's going on here? Echoes of Wisdom. Okay. Hell yeah. Yeah, I want to play a Zelda game in a cute little sandboxy Zelda thingy. I want to be the princess. Stolen away. This totally justifies making that stupid Link's Awakening prequel. Like, this makes it so much better that they bothered doing that. Instead of making a new game using the art style, and you play as Zelda. And you're like a little witch. And a cute little hood. Yeah, this is, they made that one for me, finally. Okay, something in here was made for me. I'm glad we got one for me. September 26th. Okay. Probably doesn't need to be a $60 game, but you know, whatever. Just Dance. Don't care. Lego Horizon Adventures. Don't care. Graphics look great though. Wait. This is fucking Horizon Zero Dawn but Lego? We're doing game franchises Lego now? It was already a video game. Oh, that's fascinating. I wonder who's gonna buy that. Oh, a prequel to Stray. I still haven't played Stray. I heard good things about this game. I assume this is a prequel or something. It's like a cyberpunk cat game, right? Or maybe it's just the game is now coming to Switch. Maybe that's all that is. It's not like a sequel or a prequel or anything. It's just confusingly phrased. What the fuck is this? Tales of the Shire, a Lord of the Rings. Did they make Harvest Moon in the Shire? Is that what this is going to be? This is brilliant. This is actually a brilliant idea. If this is just Harvest Moon in Hobbitville, oh my god. It's one of those things you hear and you're like, how did they not think of that already? Like, how did nobody already think of making just Harvest Moon in the Shire? That seems obvious in retrospect. And it took 20 years to get there. But it immediately seems obvious. That's crazy. That's a great idea. I probably won't play that. But it's a I assume that seeing like Hogwarts Legacy made them realize like people just want to hang out in these worlds, you know. Okay, I don't care about Ace Attorney collection. What is this? This looks like anime. Some weird eyes on that kid. Uh-oh, everything's getting destroyed by cute things. What is this nonsense? This feels like a PS2 game. In a good way. Last Defense Academy. This looks like the epitome of some shit I would watch my brother Victor play. Okay, it's like a strategy RPG. I was waiting to figure out like what the fuck kind of game is this. It looks like Danganronpa like got gameplayed. A saga spanning generations. So is this a new saga game or an old saga game? Romancing Saga 2. Okay, this looks pretty good. This looks like the type of RPG I'm always waiting for. Oh, well, not if it's going to be like a weird... Okay, no, yeah. Yeah, like, I just want this... Like, I feel like the PS2 gave us this era of, like, games that look like this and are, like, 60 hours long, and then these kind of just, like, they all got resigned to, like, the Vita or the fucking DS, and, you know, I just want to play this kind of game, like, sitting on a couch for 60 hours. It looks like having a new Dragon Quest, basically, but it's Romancing Saga 2, which I know is an old game, but, yeah, I don't know, that looks cool. The Saga games have always interested me. A lot of them just haven't aged that well, like, in one aspect or another, like load times or stuff like that, but they're all intriguing games. Okay, I think we're finally getting Metroid Prime 4 here. Yeah. So my controversial take on Metroid Prime. I love Metroid Prime 1. I hate Metroid Prime 2. And I have not played any of 3, I don't think. Because I had been under the impression that Metroid Prime 2 was supposed to be really good, and so when I played it and I really hated it, I was like, wow, how can I even trust, you know, any part of... And also, like, people always kept telling me that the Wii version of Metroid Prime was better. I highly disagree. I do not like the Wiimote controls at all. I was totally fine with the GameCube controls. The Switch obviously has the best. The Switch is the best version of Metroid Prime. Metroid Prime Remastered is the in my opinion, the best version of Metroid Prime. So I'm hoping that this will be like getting a direct sequel to Metroid Prime Remastered and not a direct sequel to Metroid Prime 3, you know? I'm looking for just put me right back to the first game and call it number 4. I don't give a shit. But if this... I mean, it looks like Metroid Prime 1. Like, that looks like a room that would be in Metroid Prime 1. The only difference is you get this little bit of skybox, you know, like, as opposed to it just being a completely closed room. But it definitely looks like Metroid Prime 1, in a way that 2 and 3 do not. So I'm really hoping that's what I'm in for. Like, everything I'm seeing here reminds me of Metroid Prime 1, which is, again... exactly what I want. They had to show the same footage twice because they don't have very much footage. Whatever. I'm not going to get hyped for it. I'm just going to say it looks good. So out of all that, Metroid Prime 4, I have hopes for. The Zelda game, where you actually play as Zelda, that looks like it could be cute. And the Romancing Saga 2 looked good. I don't know if that's supposed to be like a particularly good game, the original, but the new version of it looks good. And I haven't played the remake of the first one either, because I do believe they remade the original one, right? Romancing Saga 2 and 3 have awful remastered versions on Steam, and it makes me sad. Well, now it's getting a whole ass remake, I guess, so, You don't have to worry about that anymore, I guess. Alright, so that covers that. I've covered everything I said I was going to in the title of this video. We went over Rippaverse posting about me. We watched the Femboy Isekai anime, which was better than I expected. Not good enough for me to want to watch more of it, but good enough that it was literally not bad. We went over... What was the other stuff we went over? Love C says L. Who? What? Over what? Love C, what are you talking about? Where's the L? Are you the L? Is it just for yourself? Love C? Starting with an L? Just representing? Can't just come in and say confusing stuff in the chat and expect everybody to understand where you're coming from. Especially when you weren't here at all before that moment. So anyway, yeah, we talked about Rippaverse, we talked about Femboy Isekai, we talked about Nintendo Direct. Oh, and of course the majority of this was making a post-prog chart. So yeah, this has been a successful time. We did everything we set out to do. This could probably be broken up into 4 separate videos that are each of those segments just edited down. Meanwhile, I also want to finish the stupid Jujutsu Kaisen versus Evangelion video today. So I'm going to end this live stream and probably come back with a on the computer live stream where I'll do editing and stuff. I don't know why I decided to do this one vertically. I just wanted to see what it would be like. And I figured it would probably be easier not to get copyright claimed, but we'll find out. We'll all find out together if this was easier not to get copyright claimed. So I'll be back soon. I'm just gonna eat, take a dump, and get ready to do